Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Richard.
I had to retake that bit because I was paranoid about my mic not being on.
Yep, and then you dropped it.
Yeah,
Oh dear. Say your name for the record, please.
it's Caroline, and as I mentioned in the pre-recorded section before we were actually starting to record, if you don't know that, I would advise picking another episode to start your listening journey on. This is not going to be a good one. So that said, if you want an episode that's actually a sane length, it might be this one.
Yeah, this one's probably going to be a lot shorter than our usual insane waffling nonsense.
I might add some stuff to the end just because we've got a long drive ahead of us. That might be like a game or something we can play, but
yeah.
This was kind of a barely there con.
Yeah. So, where are we this week?
In traffic.
Okay, other than the traffic.
So as a reminder, if this is your first episode, we record this in our car. We use hands-free lapel mics. I, the person who is not driving, manage all the stuff. We're in keeping with the laws of Ohio. And we're at Anime, Ohio this weekend.
Yeah.
Not Animate, Columbus, Anime, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, run by the same people who did that gaming thing we went to a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the one from the 3 Cons 1 Weekend episode.
Yes, which I don't remember the name. But it had a very similar vibe, and it's in the same convention center.
Yeah, and it was set up in a almost identical fashion. There was a little more at this one in terms of the amount of space they were using, but it felt very similar.
Mm-hmm. And was quite crowded.
For a Friday, certainly. And yes, this is an unusual episode for us because we are just recording this on a Friday. We're just doing this as a one-dayer.
Yeah, we don't intend to come back, in part because they were already out of three-day badges, and in part just because I don't think it's a con that's really for us. So.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, we only spent about an hour at this con, so it's very clearly not something that's going to be like a full review. And if you love this con, great. Needless to say, we might not have been the biggest fans of it. So.
Yeah. And again, mostly that just comes down to we are very much panel people. Mm-hmm. Like, we like going to cons to sit down in panels and hear people talk about stuff they're passionate about and like weird things and stuff we've never heard of.
Well, it's like seeing that passion generally and the creativity is, I think, what we really love about the con atmosphere.
Yeah. And
occasionally even at celebrity panels, like if people are really passionate about that celebrity, I can get into them just because people like really care.
Yeah.
I don't 90% of the time. But this really does just feel like somebody, it feels lazy, I'm not going to lie. And I will say, I don't know if this is a for-profit or non-profit con, but I'm going to hedge my bets on for-profit.
My money will be on for-profit because this one is very Vendors Hall focused.
Yes.
Like it's not all they have, but it's pretty close to all they have. Like they have one panel room, a like quote-unquote panel space that's also in the Vendors Hall, and a number of like voice actors doing autographs and that kind of stuff, but otherwise it's just Vendors Hall.
So yeah, I will say, I think I've mentioned this on a couple other episodes, I really, really, really hate it when they put any type of like scheduled event, like trivia or like a space just in the middle of like a floor and don't put it in a room proper. Like it's annoying, there's too much noise feedback, it makes the space less immersive. I just don't like it when they put panel rooms in the middle of Vendors Halls. It's dumb, I hate it.
This at least wasn't in the middle of the Vendors Hall, it was off on one wall, but I agree with you that like just give it a panel room.
Well, especially like I can at least a little bit understand at places that don't have the space. This place fairly clearly had the space and did not organize it well or have a very accessible map.
Yes.
So let's describe the convention space before we do anything else.
Sure. So what's the name of that? Sharonville Convention Center?
Yeah, I think Sharonville Convention Center, which is in the Cincinnati sprawl outside of Cincinnati.
Yep.
Since Cincinnati is a very big and spread out city.
Yep.
The parking is free, which is nice.
Parking is free, that is a perk.
And it's definitely preferable to the one that's in downtown Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The one in downtown Cincinnati does have more space, but the one in Sharonville is... Let you have outside food or drink, that's nice.
Yep.
Oh, shut up.
You're getting marketing texts
Probably,
again. Yeah. Yeah, like, it's very much... It is a good space, I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on what I would describe as the main floor, which is nominally the second floor, you know, there's multiple big halls that are being, you know, in this case, used as vendor halls, a bunch of quote-unquote meeting rooms, you know, and, you know, they've got concession stands and all that kind of jazz set up. Like, it's a well-designed space. I don't have any real problems with it.
No, again, you can hold, like, I think a massive, massive con there. Like, But I think it could easily hold like at least 10,000 people if you arranged the space correctly and had events where they were supposed to go. This event didn't seem to organize the space in a way that I terribly liked much.
No, well, again, this was basically, two big halls, or one like massive hall set up as a vendor's hall with like a mini stage in it for some of their events. A second, slightly smaller but still fairly sizable hall set up as their like voice actor and more vendor space. There was the hallways, which had more vendors in them. And then downstairs, they had their maid cafe and their one panel room. Which, it's interesting that their one panel room was actually 3 meeting rooms, because
yeah, it was huge. It was like the size that I would typically expect a panel room to be if it was the celebrity panel room.
Yeah, or if it was main events.
Yeah.
Because, like, this was normally like rooms 103, 104, and 105, because like a lot of convention centers, their rooms are set up such that you can either have dividers up that turn them into separate rooms, or you can fold those away, remove them, and you end up with one bigger space, which is a very good, very versatile way of designing a convention center. I want to make that clear. But like, I'm gonna be honest, given that it was out the way and hard to find, I'm not expecting any of the panels this weekend to pull that many people. I don't think they needed that much space.
Yeah, and none of the panels were like celebrity-focused panels either. Like, there was a history of Yu-Gi-Oh panel, a few other like panels that seem like perfectly nice places to sit in the back of, maybe have some food, but they don't seem like panels that would be like draws of thousands upon thousands of people.
And yeah, you probably could seat, what, a few hundred people in that room
easily.
Easy?
Yeah. It was just open to go into. I like that.
Yep.
You know.
Let us kind of go in, have a look, figure out exactly where everything was, and we could have stayed for that panel, but
well, like, the thing is about hosting a panel in a room that big, given that you aren't likely to even get it maybe a tenth of the way full, that's going to be awkward for everyone involved. Because it's just having like, a tenth of the people that room could fit in like a small panel room would be great. You'd have like a nice crowd of people, but in a room of that size, it's just kind of like awkward.
Especially if any of them sit at the back.
Yeah. And I had some food down there, but it wasn't very intuitive how to get down there. The other panel rooms in the like main vendors hall area, which is smaller, and it's mostly just kind of like a stage that I think you could sit down at as you're walking around.
Yep.
But the drawback of that is, again, you're just going to get a lot of cross noise and interference, and it's going to be hard to focus, and yeah.
But yeah, and that's definitely going to have more foot traffic, just because, again, it's in the vendors hall, but it's going to be harder to actually like run a panel effectively in there. So yeah, not a massive fan of the way this one was laid out, going to be honest. They did also have their tabletop and video game room, but no board game library that I could see. I think that so they had 2 rooms, one of which was, I think, primarily card game. Though I suspect if we turned up with like one of our standard con board games and sat down and played, I don't think they've had a problem with it. And I think they are doing some tournaments and that kind of stuff. And the other one was very much the video game room, so they had a couple of giant screens set up where they were going to be doing like Mario Kart and Tekken and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, standard tournament fare.
Yep. And they did also have like consoles around the edge of the room, which, do you want to talk about that?
So you want to talk about just the process of getting in first, because that kind of leads into that.
That makes sense. Yeah, so we got here a little bit early.
It opens at 4 technically and runs from, I think, about 4 to 9 today, then like 10 to 7 tomorrow. It's not a late night con, obviously. And the convention center does have a hotel attached. I'd be willing to bet not a lot of people are staying in the hotel. This seems like a pretty local con.
Yeah, this does not feel like a con that people traveled a long way for. And part of the reason we're here today rather than tomorrow is just you and I decided we fancied just a day out today, so we came down to we went to Dayton, then we came down to Cincinnati to go to a restaurant we like. And
we call these days like special day, which is just a day where we drive to Cincinnati and do things we like doing around the area.
Yeah, like
we're not going to review.
We're not going to review, but like we went to a small museum that we like.
That was my cue to like get you to stop talking and continue. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, like we did stuff that we enjoyed, and then we were like, well, we're right near, we're like a 20-minute drive from the convention center where it is. Do you just want to go today?
Yeah, I don't really want to go back down tomorrow, because I found out that they'd already sold out of weekend passes when I was like vaguely looking at it while we were at a restaurant like eating. the few restaurants I can eat at. It was great. And I'm like, well, they already sold out of weekend passes. I didn't really foresee us actually going all 3 days. Anyway, let's maybe just go today when badges or passes are relatively cheap. Still like $20 a person, which
Yeah,
honestly seems a bit high.
it does seem a little pricey.
Like-
I'll be honest, that convention center probably ain't cheap though.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like it's really, I don't know. Because we've been to cons that are about at this level, and like,
They're usually like $5 to $10 a
yeah, they're
ticket.
generally about $5 to $10 a ticket with the amount that they have on and the amount of celebrities that they have. So this $20 was a bit steep for a one-day pass, and it's I think $50 for the entire weekend, and that's also kind of steep.
Yeah, like we paid a lot more for cons, but those are for cons that have a lot more going for them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we are not trying to be harsh. It's mostly just if the primary thing you wanted out of this con was a good shopping experience, I suspect you probably had fun.
Well, maybe. I didn't see anything at the con in terms of vendors that were terribly unique. I will apologize to the artisanal vendors who I know are doing some stuff, but again, it's just like 90% of what's in a convention center is just stuff that people are selling at a markup that they bought off Temu, and there's not anything different there. It's the same type of plush as a plush enthusiast that I've seen at a bunch of different cons. It's the same swords I've seen at a bunch of different cons. It's 3D printed dragons and crocheted stuff, which I'm fine with all the crochet artists out there. Do your business and stuff like that. I've just seen a lot of it at this point.
Yeah. You know, somebody's selling those 3D printed swords that like fold up into the hilt.
Yeah.
Like again, there's a lot of samey stuff I've seen before.
And there's like 4 billion Pokemon plush just everywhere now. I guess there's a new markup you can get on that. Probably just because I discovered this, we can buy Pokemon plush at Walmart like relatively cheaply, and it's just marked up everywhere else. So yeah, I suspect that's another thing that people are just marking up because they can, because it's technically official.
Yep. But yeah, so we turned up a bit early.
Mm-hmm.
There was already a line outside, and it's not quite 100-degree heat, but not for lack of trying. So it, as you know, it was probably what, like 96, 97 when we got there.
But parking was free, and we got like close to the entrance because we went in the back way where no one had parked yet. So.
Yeah, so we were, looking at the line, and we're like, okay, we don't really want to go stand in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a person with disabilities, you couldn't stand in that.
Yeah, it's also worth noting we're not dressed up today, and cosplay would have been even more of a problem. Like, I'm dressed up to my normal level of fancy, which is still way fancier than 90% of people.
Yeah, you got a bunch of compliments when we were walking around just a regular mall this morning.
From a bunch of small children. It was great.
Yep.
But, like, I wasn't in cosplay, which would have made that even more impossible. But I just stayed in the car. I think you got into the line when it started to move, which it did. They did start letting people in like 5 to 10 minutes early, which I think was smart.
Yeah, I think that was the right call, because otherwise that line, I think, would have become a problem. And
because it is 94 degrees today.
Again, I will say this. The registration desk was moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were doing good work. You did have to have a pre-bought ticket, and but there was a QR code on the door that was just like, don't have a ticket yet, scan this to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could not just, you couldn't just walk up with cash and buy one.
Yeah, which makes me think it's why it's run by the same people who did the video game con, because it's pretty much the exact same system and setup that they used.
Yeah. So again, walk up to the desk, scan the QR code, and then get handed your, in this case, wristband. And again, like,
they did have official badges for people who got a weekend pass. I saw that.
Yeah. Whereas, if you were just doing a one-day wristband, and again, like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, a badge for a one-day ticket is nice, but it's not necessary. Like, a wristband gets the job done nicely.
So yeah, you went in, you got tickets. It didn't take you that long. I think about 10 minutes from the time you left to the time you had tickets.
Yeah, sounds about right. At which point I basically just went back out to the car, we put our wristbands on, and then we went in.
Mm-hmm. And no bag checks or anything, which was good because we had a bunch of food that we bought in Cincinnati that we needed to take in with us because it's 94 degrees and we can't leave it in the car.
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought the cool bag today.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully everything's okay.
But then we walked into the main vendor's hall and somebody was handing out like cards, and I was confused as to what they were for.
Yep. You want to read it?
Yeah, I can grab it. You want to explain it while I'm doing that?
Yep. So, again, standard wristband check at the door where it's just like, show me your badge, show me your wristband, whatever, just so they know you actually bought a ticket. That's fine. And, when we went in, I got handed a card, and I was like, oh, okay, they're probably just advertising something. Nope.
Yeah, it entitles us to and we only got one. I suppose I could have asked for one myself, but I didn't want one. It is a visit or business card for Velocity Esports, which is apparently both in Newport, Kentucky, which is near there, and Las Vegas, Nevada, which is not near there. And it entitles us to free 60 minutes of PC or console gaming in the esports lounge, which is weird because
At every other con we've been to, that's free.
yeah, it's pretty much free. You can just go up and play a PC or console game, as you should be able to. It's like the arcade. Like, unless it's a prize-winning game, the normal games at the arcade are just free. You can just go up and play them. That's the point. We didn't go in there. I didn't know if there was anyone like monitoring the amount of time that you could be on machines.
Goodness knows, because they did have like notes on them basically saying, like, check in with us before you use this. Now, it's possible that that is actually like if you go to their like venue, wherever that is, which again is nowhere near here,
Yeah.
that's what this is for, rather than for the con itself. But it
Yeah, I would
wasn't
assume
terribly
that,
clear.
but it's not very clear because it does say in the esports lounge, which implies that it's at the con,
Yeah.
even though it might not be.
Yeah, the implication we took when we were handed that was that that was for this con.
Yeah, I do think you're probably right that it is for their esports lounge. That would make more sense, but it was confusing generally.
But yeah, so, I don't know. So yeah, overall, just like, I don't know.
So yeah, for the record, we pretty much got in and we walked around the venue, which we described. We didn't do much else. We thought about staying for a panel, but we decided. As you can tell, we're a little bit low energy this weekend. AnthroCon is a big con. Techo will also be a big con in Pittsburgh next week. And there are, like, I think you experienced this too. I definitely experienced it, this where I get to a con and I'm not really feeling it, so I need to, like, find that thing to, like, get me into the moment.
Yep.
The problem is here, there wasn't really a thing that could be used to do that, right?
Yes.
Because, like, there were panels we could go to, but those panels weren't things that interested us terribly. No one seemed terribly excited to be there. I don't think that was just us, though.
Now, again, like, there was definitely some people who were excited to, like, look around the hall and buy some things, but, like, you know, and there were a few people, like, posing for pictures in their costumes on, like, railings and stuff like that, because it's a relatively pretty convention center. Mm-hmm. But again, like, even the vibes coming off the vendors, like, they all seemed tired.
Yeah. And it is extremely hot today, and it is, you know, Friday afternoon, so maybe stuff will pick up, but there just wasn't enough on to hold our interest. Yeah. And, yeah, I do feel a bit guilty about not staying for at least one panel to at least review it, but I just didn't have the energy, and it was just, the thing is just, it wasn't crowded in the sense that, like, you couldn't move or it was heaving, but it was more crowded than I would expect it to be for what it was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly just, I don't know. Again, like, I freely admit, if I'd been designing that con and I had access to that space, I would have had 3 panel rooms downstairs. I would not have put a panel room on the quote-unquote, you know, I would not have had that quote-unquote main stage set up. Mm-hmm.
I would have had more signage to indicate where stuff was, because the panel rooms weren't marked at all.
Yeah, like, we had to actively search those out, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people won't even realize they're down there.
Well, like, this is the thing, and I pointed it out to you when we were at the con. Panels don't make money. And because they don't make money, it's very clear that the con considers them an afterthought.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to draw in money. And I know that I do recognize we are also somewhat of a rarity in that we pick cons based on things like panel schedules and stuff like that, whereas other people I know pick them based on, like, celebrities or fandom that they like, which is just not what we do.
No.
We'll go to pretty much any con that has an interesting schedule. I'm trying to convince him to go to a con in West Virginia tomorrow that's about an animatronic band that existed in the 80s that sounds like a Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff, but is just an animatronic band that existed in the 80s that they're still having, like, revelry about.
Yeah, we're probably not doing that.
We're probably not doing that, but they do have an hour long devoted to music where they just play songs that have the word magic in it.
Okay.
And they have a thing where you can put, design an own colander to wear as a hat.
That's just, okay.
I might make you go tomorrow.
Oh, God. How long's the drive?
3 hours. I love you.
I love you. If this episode ends up being a lot longer because we had to add in a review of that as well. Oh God.
You know, we might be reviewing something tomorrow regardless, so gotta get those con numbers up.
It's not a competition.
So obviously we're not doing favorite moments or anything. I feel a bit bad because this is like barely a review.
Yeah. It mostly amounts to know what you want. Like if you
Yeah.
want a basic, reasonable vendors hall and you're in Cincinnati, you can do worse.
Yeah. It is, I still think, a bit overpriced. Like, if you go to a smaller or more local one, you'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
Or if
go
you
on
were
Sunday.
really interested in these specific celebrities, I guess it would be a good con for that. But the celebrities didn't even seem that famous. But I wouldn't go for paneling, and I can't really imagine this a con. Because a lot of people go to cons to hang out with their friends, which is also valid. I can't even imagine you really doing this. There's not a lot of space for it. It just doesn't seem that, I don't know. It just wasn't for us, so we're not going to do top con moments or anything.
Yeah.
They had a cosplay contest that I'm pretty sure was construction only. That was weirdly on Sunday.
That might be an attempt to draw people into Sunday.
Yeah, probably, because they try to do that more and more. Other than that, it's pretty much just a vendor's hall that's a little bit overpriced, I would say.
And again, like there was some perfectly nice stuff in that vendors hall. I suspect there will be a lot of people who will buy stuff and be happy with it.
Mm.
We've seen vendors halls and we've yet to, with the exception of like steampunk cons, which do tend to have a lot of very artisanal stuff, vendors halls very quickly just become the same old, same old.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen that stall selling those anime swords at basically every anime convention we've been to.
Yeah. I've seen a bunch of people who are doing like digital art. They clearly tap stuff into AI to use and then print it off. That happens a lot.
It does, which is a pity because there are like you do also see a lot of genuinely very talented, very skilled artists. I want to point that out.
Oh, sweet. The 69 on Columbus is uneven.
Nice. We just passed a road sign for the record.
Nice.
Nice. So yeah, do we have much else to say about this one?
No, we knew this was going to be a short review. If you want, we can play a game for the rest of this, or we can just have a very short episode that's like 10 minutes long.
I mean, I'm good with just kind of talking and playing a game of some sort.
Okay, so what game do you want to play?
You were talking about maybe ranking small con complaints or something like that.
So con complaints, I want to do a con iceberg one, but I need more time to prepare that one.
Yeah.
So first, let's maybe just start talking about some of the complaints from Anthrocon that we weren't involved in. And I want to emphasize this. We were not involved with any of this. We were not fursuiters. And because we're not fursuiters, our opinions on any of this should be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah. There was apparently some complaints about the fursuit parade at Anthrocon, which, again, if you've listened to our Anthrocon episode, you'll know we didn't watch it.
Yes. We didn't watch it. It's not something we care terribly much about. So this is stuff we've heard third hand. And I do know this is something they're trying to improve. So they did limit, I think I mentioned last episode, the amount of people who were allowed in the fursuit parade this year, because last year the fursuit parade was 3 hours long, and that's a bit of a safety hazard in the middle of July fursuiting in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So they wanted to limit attendance. Some of the problems with this were they announced that they were capping the attendance, I think, way back in somewhere at the end of 2024, because I remember seeing a video where Uncle Hawkeye posted about it, but they didn't actually explain how the attendance was being capped, other than they were enacting some sort of standard till a few weeks before the con on a page that wasn't very easy to find, because I did look for it and could not find it, although I didn't try that hard because I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But at least it wasn't like the first page of the con. So couple things happened. First, somebody fursuited who wasn't supposed to fursuit. This person is a member of, you want to say the name of the organization?
Oh god, is he actually a member of the Third Reich?
I don't know. So furries bizarrely have a Nazi problem, because unfortunately every organization has a Nazi problem. They've done a fairly good job of stamping it down.
They have.
And as I mentioned last week, I think that's part of why they take your ideas, just because some people are just straight up banned from cons.
Yeah.
This person was banned from cons, but somehow managed to make their way into a fursuit parade. The con did apologize for that. As far as everyone can tell, that guy just skirted around security and allowed himself to be in the fursuit parade despite not needing pre-approval, which you were required to do.
Yeah.
And presumably by somebody else giving them their badge, because They check IDs, and if his name was anywhere close, and I'm not going to say what his real name is, because even Nazis are entitled to not be doxxed, unfortunately. So all of that kind of sort of happened. The con apologized for it. Unfortunately, I think that's just one of those situations that's kind of unavoidable. Like, you absolutely should complain about that, but like, I also don't think the con could have taken many more additional safety measures beyond what they were doing.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with you on that point. Like, it sucks, but somebody sufficiently determined probably can get around their security process.
At a con with 20,000 people, it's hard to catch everything, and you have to keep in mind that, like, I know of this person because I know a little bit about furry drama because it's interesting to like listen to, but you can't expect every volunteer who works there to like recognize a certain fursuit in a sea of 1,000 fursuits and know that that person identifies with white supremacy movements. Like, that's just difficult for anyone to do. So no one caught it till the person went through the parade. The con apologized, said they would be more careful with it in the future, and you can bet that every volunteer on staff next year is going to know exactly what that person's fursuit looks like.
Yep.
So I think that's the best that you can hope to do, but at the same time, you can't really expect like volunteers to memorize every neo-Nazi that exists, because unfortunately there's a lot.
Yeah.
But the con did apologize, which was the right thing to do, and I think the best thing to do is just kind of move on and recognize that a con of 20,000 people is difficult.
Yeah. The other issue they had was apparently they banned poodling this year without telling people.
You want to explain what poodling is, since I explained it to you?
Yeah. So poodling, if you think of a poodle, it is it's a breed of dog that has like patches of fur and patches of skin. So poodling is when your fursuit does not cover your all of your human skin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's worth noting that a full body fursuit that is completely covered in fur, those are expensive. So one of the common workarounds that furries will use is clothing that covers most of the skin, and then a head, feet, and like gloves of some sort that are usually like paws, effectively. And some vary it up based on the animal that they are identifying with, but generally speaking, that's kind of considered the respectable minimum. But like, with that said, clothing can cover a wide like array of stuff. So in this case, if for example you'd turned up to the con with a furry head, gloves, some sort of suitable footwear, and a crop top, which showed off part of your stomach, that would count as poodling, and that wasn't allowed.
Which there were several issues people took with this, which I think are fair. One is it was announced kind of late. Two, poodling has been like a controversial thing in the furry community for a long time in terms of like the immersion of the artistry. I'm not a fursuiter. I've not been in the fur community. I don't feel qualified to commentate on whether or not poodling is like an appropriate upsetation. I don't know. Like, we're not fursuiters.
Nope.
The other side of this is just like, people with disabilities, just anyone who can't handle the heat in July, because the fursuit parade does go outside for part of it, because it's a community event. They're not outside for very long. Is, I guess, part of the fursuit parade. Like, it could be hard for a lot of people to be like physically covered for that amount of time or wear a full fursuit because it's incredibly hot. Some of the more higher quality fursuits have air conditioning systems built into them, but not all of them do.
Yeah, I get the impression that like built-in aircon is a relative rarity.
Yes.
Because it's super expensive.
So a lot of people who couldn't take the heat wouldn't be able to do the parade. And it's something for which you don't have to do the parade. That's one argument. Like, you can be in your fursuit in other contexts, but the fursuit parade is something that a lot of furries take a lot of pride in. And it's also one of those things where generally the more costume you have, the more expensive it is. So a lot of people who are newer to fursuiting might only have like a head and some hands or something like that. And that wouldn't be considered, I guess, sufficient enough quality. And people took issue with this as being like a form of gatekeeping. And people also, I think, were just angry about it because it brought back poodling as a furry controversy, which, I don't know. It seems like, you can just kind of live and let live on that point.
Again, in any fandom, there are going to be gatekeepers.
So the thing that actually concerned me more is they also limited handlers to only people who are minors or under the age of 18 and had a parent to be with, or required to have a parent to be with them, and people with disabilities, which meant that a lot of larger, more elaborate fursuiters who needed handlers also couldn't enter the parade.
Yeah.
which, seems silly because it's a parade. You should want the most elaborate fursuits.
And again, I get the desire to want to not have non-fursuiters in a fursuit parade, but quite frankly, some of those people need handlers.
Yeah.
They just do.
For safety reasons.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they were trying to get around, because one of the things they did ban was just general cosplay that you added animal ears to, which, fair. We talked about this a little bit. I'm somebody who cosplays in just kind of animal adjacent outfits, so I wear ball gowns and put on animal ears. It's more than just a ball gown with animal ears added to it most of the time. It's a costume that I made to look like a certain animal, just not furry, but ball gown. It's kind of an ode to it. That said, especially at a con like Anthrocon, I would not enter a fursuit parade.
Yep. It's just not the place for you, and that's fair.
Because I'm not a fursuiter, and that's fine. The problem is you then have to define the difference between somebody who's just wearing animal ears, which is a degree up from me, who still should not be allowed in the fursuit parade, and people who are a degree down from me who actually have some fursuit elements to their costume, and I do get that gets a little bit difficult. But I do think you should just kind of trust people to kind of do that on their own, because I did watch last year's fursuit parade, and it did sound like they really had a lot of people who were just wearing animal ears.
No, for the most part, I think they had a pretty high standard last year. Yeah. I feel like it was just they needed a way to cap the number of people in it just for safety reasons, and they decided to try and limit it based on, I don't know, quality.
And there might be other ways to do this. A lot of people are just advocating register in advance or first come, first serve as a way. I also think it's possible to have just have more than one parade. It's a 4-day convention. You could probably do one on Friday and Saturday if you wanted, and just ask people to just use the honor system to only pick one to go into.
That makes a certain amount of sense.
Because it is the city of Pittsburgh really loves Anthrocon generally, in part because it generates about $2 million for the city in revenue, and in part because it's just such a unique event that they host, so it's very popular among them. It's always over 4th of July, and people watch the fursuit parade, then stay downtown to watch the fireworks.
Yep. Which, again, probably does wonders for local businesses and all of that jazz, and again, an extra 20,000 tourists coming into your city, because the con we were at today, I doubt people traveled for. Anthrocon is one people travel for, a lot.
Yeah, there's a very big international presence at Anthrocon, generally. There were people from Germany there, people from Australia, pretty much all over the world.
Yeah.
Brazil, tons of places. Even if conventions.com, where I get a lot of my information about conventions, is now no longer recommending you travel to the U.S. because they feel it's unsafe, which... valid.
Yeah, it's not inaccurate. There's a reason why. Anyway. But, yeah.
So that's that drama that's been happening and kind of our brief thoughts on it. And we're not fursuiters.
We're not really qualified to talk about it.
And I do think Anthrocon did the right thing about acknowledging the fact that there was somebody associated with the alt-right, or not the alt-right, the
Third Reich.
Yeah, just basically somebody who's a neo-Nazi and a known neo-Nazi who's been banned from a ton of fur cons that snuck their way in, but they did acknowledge, and I do believe this, because this person is a pretty well-known figure, that he is banned from Anthrocon, and he snuck his way in.
So yeah, I'm probably going to pull us over the next exit to get some petrol.
Okay.
So if we kind of keep waffling until then, and after that we can decide what we want to do as we continue.
So yeah, we can maybe do a tier list ranking if you want.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. Just something to keep us entertained.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's listening past this point, but if you are, thanks.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be, but again, I know we're second screen content, and that's fine.
So you just want to talk about, because Anthrocon we really like, despite not being furries.
Yes.
The con that we were just at, we didn't like, despite, maybe being, so what is it about cons that draws us specifically?
It's passion.
Yes.
It just is. We love hearing people talk about things they love and are passionate about. And that passion comes in a bunch of different forms. Sometimes it's just the moment when you're walking down a corridor and you hear somebody squeal and run up to somebody cosplaying as their favorite character, and they just start gushing over it. Those moments are wonderful to watch. Then you've got people running panels who are just incredibly enthusiastically talking about things that they love. Heck, even at something like Starbase Indy, which is a very small Star Trek convention that just has a weirdly high number of people with PhDs at it, they're all talking about, they're invariably talking about subjects they are experts in. And here's the thing, you don't get a PhD in a subject unless you love it. That's just true.
Speaking of which, we need to submit paneling for that one soon.
Yes. Have they opened paneling yet?
I don't know. I'll check
Yeah.
later. Yeah, it's definitely the passion. We definitely like stuff that's also like well run. I think part of it was just like our frustrations today were just like that's a really functional and like smart space that you could do a lot of interesting stuff with, and they've just
Crammed it full of vendors.
yeah crammed it full of vendors. Didn't think smartly about where they were going to put anything, and I think that kind of turned us off.
Because here's the thing, I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of tickets this one will sell will be 1-dayers rather than 3-day badges.
I've seen quite a few free day badges, but we did get there at 4, so I imagine most of the people who were there are going to want to be there for the whole weekend. And they did sell out of 3-day badges, so I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Also VIP badges.
Which again, I do find interesting, but who knows?
We've talked about this a little bit before, like there's never anything on offer with a VIP badge that's made me want to buy one just based on what we need.
Yeah, there is one con we're contemplating buying VIP badges for, but that's not because of the perks it gets us. It's because we really like that con and want to support it.
Yeah, I've thought about doing it with a couple steampunk cons and board game con that we really like.
Yeah, which we will talk about when we get there.
Yeah.
But that's not until like September?
Yeah.
November?
Oh, by the way, one of my panels got accepted to Colossal Con East, so we're doing that in September now.
Yeah, that wasn't on the original agenda.
That was not. I was trying to tone back the cons when school started. We'll see how that goes, because that's in the Poconos.
Yep, that's what, a 5-hour drive?
6-hour drive.
Oh, God. Yeah, we're probably not making that one on, like, first thing on the Thursday.
Probably not. We'll figure that out. This is probably very boring second screen content. I feel bad.
Yeah, it's fine. As we said, if this is anybody's first episode...
Pick a different episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry if you are affiliated with Animate, whatever this... I keep wanting to call it Animate because that's what Animate Columbus is, but it's just Anime Ohio. And this is our first time going to this one, if you couldn't tell, just because it was normally held opposite Origins the past 2 years, which I vastly prefer. I think, again, if you're just looking for something to do, it's not a bad option for that.
Yeah, again, if you're just, if you're bored this weekend and you want something to pop to for a couple of hours and do a bit of shopping.
It's fine.
It's fine. Like, I do think it's overpriced. Like $20 for a day badge feels like a lot given what's there.
Well, it's just like one of those things where it just feels, it has kind of the soullessness that some of the corporate cons do, but it also doesn't have anything on. Like GalaxyCon and Fan Expo at least have like stuff on. Like I'm aware that the people running them don't really care about like the actual thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
They care about making money, which is fine, but they at least use that money to like deliver good fan experiences, whereas
this one today just kind of felt a bit meh.
Well, I have seen cons like this that I've just not put on our list before. So like Steel City Con is one of these cons that happens a few times a year outside of Pittsburgh that I've just never gone to because it's basically just an autograph station con. Like it has dozens of people you can get autographs to, and I presume probably a vendor's hall as well. And like, but all of the panels are just Q&A panels with the celebrities, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it's basically in like an airport hangar type space, and I'm just like, I don't really want to go and deal with that. Because it's just not what we're interested in.
That's fair.
But I do wonder, like, if we're just... It's hard not to feel like we're pretty unique con goers sometimes, insofar as we go to pretty much cons from every fandom. Because we don't really care about the fandom itself so much as we do the passion.
Yeah.
And we don't care about celebrities or spending money in a vendor's hall, so... You would think that that would be more common than it appears to be? I don't really know.
Yeah, and people like their swag.
Which is valid. I'm not judging anyone for swag. I really hate when people like complain about people being overly materialistic because one, they tend to complain only about women being overly materialistic, not men.
Yep.
And two, it's your disposable income.
Yeah, like again, as long as you're spending money you have, what's the problem? Spend it to help you. Spend it on things that make you happy. That's the purpose of having money.
I thought you said you were getting gas.
I am. We have not passed a petrol station.
Okay, well, this is a long time to waffle, and I could have been preparing the game.
Yeah, it's fair.
You could have like paused it, and then we could.
I could, but that's like way more effort.
For you, you don't have to think of crap to say.
Exactly.
I have to think of the crap to say because that's apparently my job. Oh, I really hope this is no one's first episode of this.
Again, you are the smart one in the relationship, honey.
I should buy that. It's cute.
So yeah, again, I didn't hate this con. It's just it.
We didn't really try. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's fair. Again, sometimes you just kind of get into an event and you're like, no, this isn't for us. And again, yeah, Anthrocon last week, Techo next week, so a couple of big ones back to back. So
You okay?
it's just difficult, but yeah.
So yeah, we are, as you can tell, pretty tired. It's also just unseasonably warm today.
Yeah, it's still 93 degrees and it's after 5, so yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to pause this till we get gas and we'll pop back on?
Sounds like a plan. So we'll be back momentarily. Toodaloo. And we have petrol.
Hooray! We don't have soda because they were out.
Yep.
Also, I tried to point out to you that like we've already been recording for 30 minutes, which is a sane episode length.
Yeah. We're going to keep going.
Of course we are. Mostly because we're bored.
Yep.
Like no one should be listening to this at this point.
Yeah, this podcast is basically just our free therapy.
So, as we mentioned in, I think, a bonus episode that we recorded for Origins, people have a lot of complaints about cons. And as con reviewers, we are arbiters of whether or not those complaints are good. So we developed a tier list, which you're immediately going to forget despite me telling you what it is.
I remember 2 of them.
Okay.
I remember the top and bottom.
Yes.
So, top level is valid complaint. Or
legitimate complaint.
Legitimate complaint.
Level 2 is sort of had a point.
Sort of had a point.
3 is if you squint.
Yep.
4 is who asked.
And 5 is old man yells at cloud.
Old man yells at cloud. So those are the 5 levels. We're not doing any more than that because we can forget. And we'll just talk through some complaints. And I'm finding these mostly just by Googling or like searching for complaint on various like apps and groups that I'm in.
Yep. So what do we want to start with?
This is a complaint about Gen Con that we might cover more when we get to Gen Con, but they have one of the more active Discord servers, so they're easy to find. Which is, so when you get tickets for Gen Con, they are mailed to you.
Yep.
But you have to have a signature to pick them up. People are complaining that people didn't de-click the box, which is not easy to access, that says you don't require a signature receipt to have them just be delivered to your house. And somebody's saying that those people are dumb and stupid.
I mean, you and I have both had those situations where, like, we almost never want to interact with the mailman and, like, sign for a thing because, again, sometimes you're out.
Yeah, I'm a bit unclear on why you have to sign for it. I suppose it does allow for extra security, but, like, to be fair, neither of us live in an area where our mail is likely to get stolen, so... But I will admit, I'm not sure if that should be the default thing for Gen Con, that you have to sign for it. I feel like it should be opt-in rather than opt-out.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, we had to sign for our tickets, and we were out when they tried to deliver them.
Which wasn't really that big a deal, because our post office is, like, 5 minutes from our house.
Yeah, we just, where I park for work is right next to it, so just, like, one lunchtime, I walked down to the post office, and I collected them. It took like 2 minutes.
So I might follow that one just under if you squint. Like, I think it's good that they mail them out. I think that it should probably be opt-in for a signature. Don't yell at people for not un-opting for that, because it's actually quite hard to do.
Yep. I think I would agree with you on that one. That seems like about the right place for it. But yeah, again, I'm assuming that the fact they mail your stuff to you will significantly cut down on like reg lines for Gen Con,
Yeah.
but we will see.
Because you have your badges and most of your tickets. We
Yep.
will have to go to Will Call for a couple things, but we'll cover that in the Gen Con episode.
Yes.
The convention center water is not tasty enough.
It's water. Like, okay, here's the thing. A convention center that has free water, that's already earning points in my book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, complaining that it doesn't taste like Highland Spring or whatever your preferred brand of water is, I don't really care.
Somebody's recommending bringing a Brita filter with you into the con space to
Wow.
filter the water when you get there.
I mean, if you want to do that, go for it. Like, we've got one at home. Like, we could do that. It's just, it's not worth it most of the time.
Really not. I'm going to file that one under Who Asked, probably.
Yeah, I think Who Asked feels about right. Like, again, if you're worried about the quality of the water in a convention space, just bring a bottle of Evian or whatever your preferred brand is. Why are there so many brands of bottled water?
The food trucks perpetuate an American stereotype that there's too much sugar in American food.
What?
That's a complaint. The food trucks, because they're focused on, like, street food, are a lot of, like, food that's not terribly healthy. So it perpetuates the stereotype that Americans eat food with lots of sugar in it.
Americans do eat food with a lot of sugar in it, but, like, here's the thing. The whole point of food trucks is it is the definition of fast food. Like, it's something that can be cooked quickly, simply, in the back of a truck, and that you will get, and that you will pay, not a ridiculous price for, and is mobile. Like, food trucks are an almost uniquely American thing. I'm not going to lie. Like, we have them in the UK, but to a much lesser extent. It's pretty much just ice cream trucks. And they're not making food in the back of an ice cream truck. They've just got to refrigerate.
Yeah. Well, it is something for which, like, any street food or, like, food like that is going to be probably fried, because that's what's easy to make in a truck.
Yep. Fried or microwaved are basically your two options in the back of a truck.
I also just, like, people who think bad things about America are going to do that regardless. Okay, so where do you want to put this on the tier?
Who asked?
Okay.
Like, would I like more variety in food truck food? Yeah, sure, why not? Give me a food truck salad. But to be fair, a lot of them do throw in a salad, so it's not usually good salad, even if it's a good food truck, but
Influencers make videos trashing the con.
I mean, that is a legitimate criticism. Because we've seen videos that influencers, one in particular who we're not going to name, make trashing cons. Like, here's the thing. Rage bait, videos get clicks because people click on them. And that's not going to change unless YouTube radically rejigs its algorithms.
And we are a con positive generally, although we did kind of, like, we didn't really rag on anime or whatever it is, Ohio.
Anime Ohio.
Like,
we just said it's not for us.
It's not for us, but, like, nothing bad happened.
Yep.
It's perfectly competently run, and we tend to be pretty con positive generally.
Yep.
We are flipping off a sign right now that talks about how marriage is between one man and one woman. We're not positive about that.
No, that sign can go to hell. But,
But, like, we try to, like, be fair to different groups of people as opposed to bullying people and also filming them without their consent, which happens a lot in influencer videos. And I do want to point this out just because it's been a conversation on social media. Yes, when you go to most cons, you can consent to be recorded by the con for their promotional material.
Yeah.
That's fine, because it's just a reality that the con's going to use pictures of you for their promotional material.
Yeah.
I expect that.
And here's the thing. They're unlikely to use a picture of you specifically without your consent. Like, even when we've been at GalaxyCon or Fan Expo, one of those big cons.
Like, we are in some of the promotional materials. I've seen us in group shots and stuff like that, but they haven't used pictures of us specifically. And anytime we have been in any specific promotional materials, a con photographer has asked us before we've done it, generally for, like, a recap video for both in cosplay, and we'll just fool around in front of the camera for a couple of minutes and we show up on film. But we know that it's happening. Yeah. And we were asked about it. Whereas if you're using somebody for influencer videos, which are not associated with the con and on somebody's private YouTube channels, especially when that YouTube channels might be expressing views about the con that you don't agree with.
Yep.
And you've seen on this podcast, we're very careful about trying not to, like, we have very clear rules about when we do and don't say people's names. We say names when they're permission, when they're publicly available names, or when they're names of groups or individuals, or when they're personas. We don't use people's real lives names. I didn't even name that Nazi.
Nope.
Because even though they're a Nazi, they deserve not to be doxxed. What?
Sorry, name that Nazi sounds like the worst panel show ever.
Name that
Nazi!
Nazi!
Oh, God. This episode may never get uploaded to YouTube because YouTube does not like the N-word.
Well, the Nazi N-word, not the other N-word.
Yeah.
The other N-word is to white people. We do not say.
With that one we don't say, no.
Yeah. Somebody had a blood with a mattress stain on it. That seems legitimate. I am aware that I inverted that. Whatever.
Blood with a mattress stain. I'm curious to know how that works. Anyway.
That's what a period is.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so mattress with a blood stain on it. Yeah, feels like that's a reasonable complaint to have of a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I get sometimes housekeeping isn't going to catch everything, but come on. Like, part of it, that does depend on, like, when you say blood stain, are we talking, like, the size of a thumbnail, or are we talking, like...
I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, like, if the mattress itself has a blood stain on it, you would have had to, like, remove the sheets to see it.
Yeah.
And I don't remove the sheets on my hotel mattresses.
Yeah, because I don't want to know what's under there.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's the same reason I don't bring a black light with me.
At a certain point, you're just better off not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we get in Airbnbs. I trust that, like, other people have, like, slept on the beds.
Yep.
Well, this is, like, a weird thing that I've discovered on Reddit of just, like, people get really, like, I don't know, skeeved about other people having, like, sex in their bed. Like, you can just wash the goddamn sheets. It's not a big deal.
That's fair.
Like, to be clear, this is like when your friends are house sitting for the weekend or something like that. But I trust if I'm asking a couple to house sit for me, they're going to have sex in my bed. Like, in fact, if you're, like, a couple and you're listening to this and you have house sit for us at some point, you have my full permission to have sex in our bed.
You had to make it weird, didn't you, honey?
Well, the best thing is, like, you feel awkward about sex stuff and I don't, so it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as awkward about it as I used to be. But anywho.
Okay, here's another food truck one. The food trucks were exactly the same as last year, with the exact same menu as last year.
Old man yells at cloud. Like, here's the thing. If a con gets back the exact same food trucks as last year, that means they got feedback from the con that they were good food trucks. Like, that's what that means. You know, they will have specifically contacted those people again and said, "Hey, our guests, our attendees liked you. Do you want to come back again?" And the food trucks will have gone, "We made money last year. We will come back and make money again this year." Like, being disappointed they haven't changed up the menu in a year, okay, maybe, but at the same time, like, there's a limit to what you can do with a food truck. Like, if you're a food truck that does burgers, you've only got so much room to store ingredients back there to make different kinds of burgers. So yeah, I'm putting that one in Old Man Yells at Cloud. Sorry, don't know how you feel about
that. Somebody is complaining for specifically Gen Con about some people being really excited that somebody is playing or like running an obscure game that they're excited about, and then complaining that they couldn't get tickets to the obscure game they were excited about. And then somebody wrote, "How dare they not have enough events of this obscure game I wanted to play for all 70K attendees?" And I'm like, I feel like it's fine to be salty that you didn't get tickets you wanted.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. So what do we... Let's rank these two separately.
Okay.
Complaining you couldn't get into a game you wanted. I'm going to put that... what's our second tier called?
Sort of had a point.
Sort of had a point. I'm going to put it under sort of had a point. Like, you and I have also been disappointed at not being able to get to specific events at board gaming cons.
And we still have yet to find a ticketing system for bigger board game cons that we feel is fair. It might not exist, to be fair.
Fun times as we head into...
okay, can you keep talking?
Roadworks. Yep.
I don't think you pulling this up on your... honey, why don't you continue with the complaints, please?
Yeah. So, as it stands, that one, complaining that you couldn't get into a specific game, that I think is... It's not top tier, but it is, a reasonable thing to complain about. So, second tier, I'm comfortable with. Somebody basically yelling at them and saying, and being sarcastic and basically saying, "Oh, well, how dare they not cater to me specifically?" that's just being kind of a dick.
Well, I don't think the person, like, they're more just complaining about people, like, so there are people who are complaining about the people who are complaining that they're not getting tickets.
Yeah.
And that I feel like is a bit unfair.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in who asked.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need to make that comment.
Yeah.
Like,
and you don't know what anyone else's gaming stuff is like. Like, some people are gamers like me. Like, if you're somebody who likes Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, like, and that's your favorite system, Dungeons and Dragons, I guarantee you'll have a fun time even if you register for events like the day before they're on sale.
Yeah.
Because like, there'll be tons of that.
Yeah, like you want to play Pathfinder or Starfinder at Gen Con, Pathfinder and Starfinder Society are running a million games there. You'll be fine. If there's like one specific weird, obscure game that you don't get to play very often, but you love, but for whatever reason don't want to run yourself, then, seeing it was running and being excited for it, only to be disappointed when you couldn't get in, that's fair. So yeah, just be kind. Don't be a dick. It's not that hard. So yeah, don't know how you feel about that.
That's fair.
Okay, next complaint.
Let me see. I'm still trying to find stuff. People having their events rejected, just generally.
So, from an event the size of Gen Con.
So again, keep in mind that I am trying to make these broad enough to not just apply to Gen Con specifically. It's just they're the biggest server I happen to be in, but just across the cons, people having their events rejected.
Here's the thing: it always sucks to have a panel or an event you suggest rejected. Like, it does just suck. There's no ifs or buts about it, but con space is always limited. Like, there isn't infinite room to have panels, and depending on the size of the con, they may get a lot of submissions. Like, some cons just need more paneling generally and will happily take whatever they get. A lot of conventions will get, twice as many panels as they can actually accommodate over the weekend. And that's not really the fault of the con, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think most cons, for the most part, do try to, if you're offering free programming, allow you to do it. There are a couple cons I know who are like more selective than that, but most cons try to have as much stuff as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And I do think it is a balance, because if you have somebody who's like been doing it for 10 years or something like that, that person's obviously going to be very reliable, but at the same time, you also want to get new people in. So how do you balance those two things?
Yeah. And it is hard to do. So again, sometimes it does just come down to first come, first serve. Sometimes it comes down to, there is a team of events coordinators who will actually look at all the submissions and go, okay, this is a guy who's worked with us before, so he gets 5 points for that. This, this panel I think will be interesting, so he gets 5 points for that. And then they total up points at the end, and the top 50 panels or whatever it is in terms of those points.
Yeah, I know some people also just straight up do first come, first serve, valid. There's a lot of ways to do it. It does suck, but it is something for which, if you go to a lot of conventions, you could maybe do more paneling.
Yeah. And again, sometimes you throw your hat into the paneling ring, and a panel gets accepted and you weren't really expecting it.
Yeah, it's happened to me a couple times.
Yep.
And it's also something for which you don't know, at least for the most part, if you've never been to a con before, if they already have a panel like that somebody else does.
Yeah. Again, we submitted a couple of panel ideas to Techo this year. They did not get accepted. Again, does it suck? A tiny bit, but we're still going to go. We're still going to have fun.
Yeah. So where do you want to file that one?
I'm putting that right smack in the middle. I'm saying if you squint.
Okay.
It sucks on a personal level, but at the same time, it's completely understandable from a con organizational standpoint, so I don't really feel like anybody here is at fault. So I can understand the desire to just talk about it and say this sucks, but I also, I don't think the cons themselves are at fault for it. Now, if you turn up to a con and they rejected your panel and they have empty panel rooms constantly, yeah, okay, something's gone weird there.
Yeah, assuming your panel is something that the con wants. If you want to do a cooking panel at an anime con and there's not an anime theme to the cooking panel, that might be a fair reason to reject it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or if you're that Nazi furry.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're a Nazi furry or just a Nazi generally, your panel probably should be rejected.
Yeah. Side note, did you see what got accepted at Worldcon?
I don't even know what that one is.
It's another big convention. It's nowhere near us, fortunately, but yeah, they accepted a panel on like why female heroes suck under
Is it
under their DEI category.
okay? Like, is it meant to be a comedy panel?
No,
Okay.
it's a literary panel about like
Okay.
female heroes all being lesbian coded.
Okay, let's maybe move away. Like, I haven't had time to research that and fact check it, so let's maybe move on.
Valid.
Just because I want to make sure that we're actually representing that fairly. Okay, hotel lottery systems, just generally. You want to explain? We don't talk about this a lot on the podcast because we don't enter hotel lotteries pretty much ever.
So for big popular conventions, Colossal Con is a big one.
Colossal Con's one. I don't know if they do a lottery system though. I think they just do a may the odds be ever in your favor system.
Yeah.
Gen Con does a lottery system. I'm pretty sure that AnthroCon does a lottery system.
Yeah.
Lottery systems can vary. So one is just when they open the hotel block. So typically a hotel block is what it sounds like. They con calls, and once they've set the dates for the convention, they set a room that's blocked off.
Yeah.
You can attempt to undercut this, which I know some people do, of just trying to guess which dates the con will be and get in before the hotel block is in effect, which I know some people do. The rates aren't as discounted if you do it that way, but you guarantee yourself a room,
yeah,
so that's nice.
Which is a perk. But usually if it's a popular con like Colossal, like AnthroCon, then there is a mad rush to try and get your hotel room booked.
That's not a lottery system.
Yeah. So some cons, rather than do it as a mad rush, will basically do it as a lottery system. You put your name in.
You typically put down your top hotel choices in order of what you want.
Yep.
And then they randomize it effectively.
Yep.
Which does make it a little bit more fair.
It does, but at the same time, it's if you get unlucky, it sucks.
Yeah.
Basically.
So, like, both of these are luck-based systems because one option is just like basically button mashing, which is what Colossal Con does.
Yep.
Where there's one hotel which is attached to the convention center, and you basically just have to get in there the second it opens and fight like 5,000 other people to get a hotel room for you and your friends.
Yep.
Whereas with a lottery system, you don't have the stress of like doing that. You can submit your lottery pretty much any time up until that particular point for what rooms you want, and then I think for most systems, they'll assign you a room, and if you have one, you have 24 hours to confirm. And if you don't confirm, they'll go to the next on the list.
Yeah.
So it is, both of which are basically just completely random. I suppose like the lottery system probably is a little bit better in terms of fairness. But it also is a little bit more luck-based, I would guess.
Yeah. I would kind of agree with you on that point.
We've not experienced this just because we stay in Airbnbs and Vrbo and stuff like that, which we tend to prefer to hotels.
Yeah. Again, they tend to have the things you personally need.
Yeah. And they also mean we can avoid this, which I kind of prefer. Because for some cons, it does make sense. Like for Colossal Con, a lot of the fun is being in the water park with your friends, in a hotel with your friends. So that's fine. But for cons like AnthroCon, like some of the hotels are like right next to each other, so you can just walk over. But some of them are like just somewhere in the city.
Yeah. And again, like don't get me wrong, somewhere in the city, especially because with AnthroCon, if it's one of the hotels that they've done a room block with, they do a shuttle service to get you back and forth. Yeah, which is not a bad thing. Like that's a good decision on the con's part. But with that said, that's still not being like. It still makes it harder to just kind of go back to your hotel room and chill out for a bit. Whereas if it's a connecting hotel, you can just walk there. So, again, pros and cons, but yeah. So I would put that under, again, if you squint, like, there are definite pros and cons to using a lottery system. Pros and cons. There are definitely advantages and disadvantages to using a lottery system. And I completely get feeling like that system screws you over.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's going to. It's the nature of luck in that context. And, if you are somebody who has specific needs, that does make it harder to navigate that.
Yeah, I don't know if they do prioritize people who need disabled access rooms. I would like to hope that they do, but I don't know that for sure. And this is, again, why I tend to prefer to stay off-site in Airbnbs. Like, there are disadvantages. We can't just go back to our room in the middle of the day and chillax, but which will be really nice, but
Yep.
it does stop us from this stress for bigger cons.
But yeah.
The con having no Wi-Fi or internet connection. So what are we? So yeah, we rank the last one in the middle.
Yeah. I'm going to put that one under. Why do I always forget what the second tier is called? It's not completely valid. What's the next one? Kind of at a point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sort of had a point is the next one. If you squint, is one down from that.
Yeah. I'm going to say sort of had a point. Because I do really like it when a convention center has decent free Wi-Fi. Like the place where Motor City FurCon was, and where what's the other convention we went to there? Yukon, board game one. Before
Yeah.
we started the podcast, yeah. Like that convention center, hotel has really good free Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was able to take a work conference call there
during a opening ceremony.
Yep. Stupid thing got delayed, but anyway. But yeah, so that was definitely something that it's super useful to have. I love it when a convention center has that, but I don't necessarily expect it. Like I would like it to be a thing that they make available because again, like I'm on a limited data contract, and especially here's the thing: if you are a panelist, I think you do need it because like a lot of panelists will want to like show clips of YouTube and various other bits and bobs, and you kind of need a half decent Wi-Fi connection. Now, whether or not it's free to everybody or just something that like convention goers or convention center staff and or panelists can use, that's a bit of a dicier question.
It is something which I think it depends on the type of con too. Like for a board gaming con where people are going to need to like look up rules and stuff like that, it's a lot more of a godsend than maybe just like during an anime con.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, sort of had a point.
Sort of had a point.
Badges not being laminated.
Depends on the length of the con. Is my honest answer to that. Like, I don't mind a non-laminated badge for a short con. Like, if it's just 3 days, the badge, unless it's made of actual paper, a badge should hold up fine.
And it also depends on their lost badge policy. Like, if a con is just going to be like, sure, if you lost your badge or one fell off, here's a new one. I'm not going to care all that much. It's at best like mildly annoying. But most cons, your badge is your ID, and once you're checked in, they won't give you a new one. You have to buy an entirely new ticket.
Yep.
And the main thing about badges being laminated is
it makes them a lot more durable.
Yeah, because typically you clip a badge onto a lanyard, and if it's laminated, then it's secure on that lanyard for the most part.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's paper, there's a decent chance of it falling off, which has happened to us before. Thankfully, we didn't lose the badge, but...
Yeah. So, again, if it's just like a 2-day con or a 1-day con, like as I said before, just getting a wristband for a 1-day, for a single day event, that I'm fine with. Mm-hmm. Like, this thing is fragile. It'll come off, as soon as I take a shower. Not a problem because I'm not taking a shower at the con because it's only a 1-dayer.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're expected to have that badge for 3 days or, God help you, 5 days, then you want, a laminated badge or a badge made of something sturdier. We've seen plastic badges plenty of times.
And they are more expensive, and I do get that, and I tend to be like softer on like cons that are clearly like smaller and more local if they just do wristbands or non-laminated badges. But those cons also tend to be a lot more agreeable if you lost your badge for some reason. If you can just go by and say, hey, I bought a ticket and I lost my badge, and they'll probably just give you another one.
Yeah.
Whereas bigger cons don't do that.
No. So,
somebody's also recommending as a solution to that, bringing a laminator with you.
Okay. The first person is going under, if you squint, that person's going under Old Man Yells at Cloud.
Okay, here's a complaint that's just completely out of context.
Okay.
It's loud.
Is that the extent of what I'm getting?
Yeah, that's what you're getting. It's loud.
I mean, that's entirely situational. Like,
I know.
If you go to a rave and complaining that it's too loud, I mean, you're about as Old Man Yelling as a cloud as you get. If you're like, I went to the quiet room because I had a headache and there was like a bunch of people in there screaming, valid. So yeah, I'm gonna need more to work on than just it's loud. Is that literally all they said?
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations, you go right smack in the middle because I don't know what else to do with that.
Yep.
Have fun in if you squint.
Apparently people like really like to complain about the like block party that Gen Con does, because now people are complaining that there's two of the same food truck at the block party.
What does it matter?
I don't know.
Like that just means that if it's a good food truck, that means you can like go to a different. You can go to the same food truck, but a different one if there's a shorter line. Like I suppose if you want more variety, sure, but that feels like a who asked.
I agree with that. Okay. Here's one that's interesting. Being told by staff not to line up before a certain time.
Okay, so that is an interesting one. I'll give you that.
Because we've definitely experienced this.
Yes. So you and I don't like lines at cons generally.
We don't. The problem is when you tell people not to line up before a certain time, they don't go anywhere else. They just kind of stay in that area until they're allowed to officially line up.
And then they start lining up.
Yeah. And some of them just still line up before then. And like the problem is you can't really stop the line from happening.
Yeah. Like people will see people loitering near where the line will form, but without actually being in the line and being like, oh, they're lining up, but we're not allowed to yet. I'm going to hang out near them.
Yeah, which is in some ways worse than that there being a line, because
Yeah.
the line is at least at one side of a hallway.
Yeah, that usually ends up right smack in the middle of a hallway.
Yeah.
Usually blocking some stuff. So, yeah, like, here's the thing. If your con is going to do lines like that, you're going to have to deal with people lining up early so they get the best spot possible.
Yeah,
so,
and that's generally an indication that your con needs to, like, find a better method of crowd control.
Yeah.
If people are lining up an hour before an event that's not a very major celebrity event, I think you probably need to...
Yeah, that's a problem. So, yeah, I'm putting that under valid.
Yep.
Or legitimate criticism, sorry, I believe is the top tier.
People complaining that there's nowhere where they can complain.
So here's the thing. I actually believe that cons should have feedback panels.
Yeah.
They should have like email addresses you can send things to. And yes, if you're the poor volunteer who's stuck reading people whinging, I get that it's annoying. Like I've done customer service type work. Like I know what it's like when someone calls you up just to complain at you. But yeah, a convention probably should have some way of getting feedback from its audience to know what worked and what didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that, like, some people are a little intimidated by feedback panels generally, just because people do kind of complain, as evidenced by this thread about stuff that's either asinine and sometimes people can be mean. But generally, most of the feedback panels we've gone to have been pretty nice and well received.
Oh, yeah.
Compliment sandwichy.
And again, feedback panels I think are a good thing. It actually gets, it lets the con goers see the con staff and remember that we're all as human as each other. People going, con staff at furry cons notwithstanding, but they are useful, important panels, and I think more cons should have them. So yeah, I'm going to say not. I'm going to say at the very least that's why is the second tier the one I forget the most? Sort of had a point?
Sort of had a point.
I'm going to call that sort of had a point. I feel like I'm more aggressively middle of the road when it's mostly me doing the rankings.
I'm doing them too.
You are.
I've been, like, adding commentary. I just also have to look up the next things. We don't have dead airspace.
This is fair. I love you. So yeah, it's been a fun week. Oh, goody.
The winner takes all Origins ticketing or Gen Con ticketing system. Do you want to save that one for Gen Con actual review?
I kind of want to save that for when we actually review Gen Con and talk about their ticketing system.
Yep.
Because again, like, I do. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, again, it is something for which I do feel like a couple more revisions of that would be nice, where you like maybe have like a first-rate choice before the free-for-all, but we can talk more about that. So, Traffic in Chicago is bad. I don't know why this is even in the Gen Con server.
I mean, traffic in Chicago does in fact suck. Valid complaint.
It's worth emphasizing that Gen Con is not in Chicago.
I know.
So I don't know why they're talking about that.
It's in a different city. Is it even in the same state? Chicago and Indianapolis?
I'm not going to answer that for you because it's funny.
Okay. Again, my knowledge of American geography is just bad, guys, because, you know, I grew up in a country that wasn't this one, and so therefore my geographical knowledge mostly focuses on, you know, where the Scottish border is. You know, and how far north you have to be to actually qualify as a northerner. And if for anybody from Middlesbrough, you're not a proper northerner. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Stop claiming to be northerners. Also, if anybody from Middlesbrough is listening to this podcast, why?
The announcement on the exhibitor hall loudspeaker being too loud.
Okay, again, like, here's the thing. If you've got some kind of like auditory processing disorder or anything like that, or you know, like you're trying to do something specific in a vendor's hall and you're getting drowned out by that, I get it. That's annoying. With that said, if it's too quiet, then people don't hear the announcement. So it's kind of a, you know, slightly tricky swings and roundabouts you on. Again,
maybe if you squint.
I think maybe if you squint. Like, there is some legitimate criticism there, but I don't think it's entirely fair. Like, that's one where I do understand that you kind of need to have the right balance on that one.
Okay. So specific to, I think, tabletop cons, probably Gen Con and Origins. Too much TTRPG stuff and not enough board game stuff, or conversely, too much board game stuff and not enough TTRPG stuff.
Okay. So here's the thing. If there's not enough of the stuff you personally like, it's easy to see that there's, you know, more of other stuff you don't and to complain about it. Every single board game convention, whether it's doing tabletop games, board games, LARPs, whatever, is limited by what people volunteer to run. It is not necessarily on the con to fix that. Because there's only so much they can do to incentivize people to run specific types of games.
Yeah. And I will say another way to like actually look at what the con needs is to look at what fills in terms of ticketing, because both Gen Con and Origins use the ticketing system.
Yep.
So I commented to you about there not being enough TTRPGs at Origins, and my primary reason for commenting you on that is all of the TTRPGs pretty much were sold out. Like all of them. There was nothing open. Now, not all those games wound up filling just because some people didn't show up, but that's pretty normal to have a little bit of attrition, but the attrition was about 10%, and I feel like that's just standard for what you can expect for attrition.
Pretty much. So yeah, like, it's not, it's very easy, especially if, you know, there's a particular thing you want to do that you're unable to do because it sells out. It's easy to say, well, they should have just had more tickets, and you're right. But that's because not enough people ran it.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing, especially at a big gaming convention like Origins or Gen Con, the solution to there wasn't this one thing I wanted is next year, run it yourself. Like, that's an unfortunate reality, that is the best solution. And, you know, does it suck if a thing you want to take part in is full? Yeah, it does. You know, we said that earlier. But it's the nature of the event, and I don't know if there's a way around it. Like, again, my Mass Effect thing had effectively an entire second table on the wait list.
And yeah, the late night con show game had not everyone show up to it, and it also had like 10 people on the wait list.
Yeah.
It's, again, I'm not attacking people who didn't show up Sunday of a con.
Yeah.
It's just a reality of the kind of the situation. I will say, based on what we did at Origins last year, if you are legitimately free in that time spot and didn't find an open game, it is worth going by the table to see if you can get a spot.
Yep.
Sometimes GMs will say yes, sometimes they'll say no, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah. And again, generally, even if they say no, they'll be respectful about it. Like, again, we only had 2 tickets to Nancy Druid. You know, I asked if I could join. They basically said, you know, it is full table. It only runs up to this amount. You know, if everybody with a ticket shows up, I'm going to have to say no. And I said, that's absolutely fine.
And everyone did. But then they worked you into a game of kobolds because they're
Yeah.
just like kobolds can fit however many people.
Yep.
So
that worked fine. I was happy with that.
yeah. I've switched to the Anthrocon server because that also has a lot of people and we'll have different problems.
Sounds good.
The buses not being on time, which is a very big one for Anthrocon that I don't think we talked much about. So
yeah, so we mentioned earlier that they do shuttle buses
Mhm.
To the hotels, and I get if they're supposed to operate on a certain timeline, it's really annoying if they're late.
Mhm.
But here's the reality of public transport: bus is going to be late.
Yeah. Well, I do think these are buses that are specifically for Anthrocon.
They are, but even so, they're going to be late. Like loading a bunch of fursuiters on and off a bus probably takes longer than you think it's going to. Not to mention the fact that traffic in Pittsburgh is not good at the best of times. I'm willing to bet it's a nightmare on Anthrocon weekend. So it sucks, it's annoying, and it is probably an if you squint, but at the same time, it's also something that I would just expect and plan into my timetable.
Yeah.
But that might just be because I'm used to dealing with British public transport. The classic joke of British public transport is you wait an hour and a half for a bus and then 3 of them turn up at once. So, with that said, we did have that annoyance at OneCon that was splitting itself between 2 locations, and yeah, sometimes if you've got to shuttle back and forth a bunch, it can be really annoying standing around and waiting for a shuttle bus.
Trigger complaints. Complaints about being triggered, just generally.
Okay. So, here's the thing.
So, and I do want to emphasize when we say complaints about being triggered, I am using triggered in the sense of not mildly annoying, but related to PTSD or autism or something else like that, which are conditions that have legitimate trigger points.
Yes. What I would say is if your panel, if your board game, whatever, is going to include any of the obvious common triggers, like, sexual assault, like, racism or homophobia or anything like that, I think it's worth putting a content warning on the front. Like, it just is. Because that way, people going in know roughly what to expect. Like, the panel we went to at Anthrocon on the queer history of furry had basically a bunch of warnings at the front that basically said, we are going to be, it's going to be discussing homophobia, it's going to bring up some racism, there's going to be some language in it that was used at the time that's no longer acceptable, that kind of stuff. And that was a good thing for them to put at the front of the panel so that people who would not be able to tolerate that could back out. That was a good decision on the panelist's part. With that said, a lot of people with PTSD, with CPTSD, with various other conditions who have specific triggers, those triggers are often very specific to them, and there's no real way for a panelist to know in advance what's going to set somebody off.
Yep. So, like, I am like that, but I recognize, like, if a trigger comes up, it's my job to kind of handle it in that moment because they're not, like, something anyone would think to flag sometimes.
And again, we have had, like, small games where somebody has said, is there anything in particular you would like me to avoid? So when we did Scooby-Doo Dread at Catacon, the person running that basically said, okay, are there any particular trigger points you want me to stay away from? And you told him one of yours. He said, okay, there will be no mention of that. It probably wasn't going to come up, but thank you for letting me know to avoid it. And again, that was fair, that was reasonable. But you can't really do that to a room of 50 or 100 people.
Yeah.
So your triggers are valid, your triggers are legitimate, but outside of the big, classic, obvious ones, there's no real way for a panelist to prep for all of them.
Yeah. And, like, there are also some things that I feel like, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, that fall kind of in a middle ground. Like, prop guns do make me uncomfortable, but, like, it's just down to the con policy whether realistic prop guns are allowed. Some cons allow them, some don't.
Yeah.
I do appreciate when they're prop checked, at least.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that if the con policy says that somebody's allowed to carry a prop gun, then they're allowed to carry a prop gun. I think you feel similarly about them.
Pretty much. And again, like, there is a reason why the policy usually says if it's a good enough replica to be mistaken for a real gun, it's not allowed. That's usually where it goes. You know, like I've seen people build like really convincing replicas of like the guns from Halo, but at the same time, those are obviously fictional guns. Whereas if you turn up with a gun that looks like an M16 because you're doing like a I don't know, a Rambo cosplay or something like that, but it looks realistic enough that somebody would mistake it for an actual real world M16, I can understand the con saying, no, you're not allowed that. So yeah, again, I'm gonna put that in. Probably sort of had a point. Like again, if we are talking about the big obvious triggers that affect a lot of people, fair enough. If we're talking about your personal ones, I am very sorry, but there is no realistic way for a panelist to deal with that.
Complaints about fire safety.
So, are we talking about people actually complaining that something was unsafe from a fire standpoint?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's legitimate criticism. We have seen cons where they do stuff that's definitely against the fire safety regulations. Like last year's Anthrocon, at least one panel we were in was definitely a fire hazard. Like if a fire had started in that room, people would have died. And fortunately, I did not see that again this year. I'm pretty sure they fixed the problem, so good job, guys.
But I will say fire safety complaints, I have them at more than just furry cons. I have them at a lot of big conventions generally.
Because part of the problem is just like, if there is an actual fire, human beings are very, very stupid. Insofar as studies have shown that if there's an emergency situation and people get told to get out of an area, they will not do the sensible thing and go for the nearest exit. They will try and get out whatever entrance they came in through. That's just how human beings react psychologically to an emergency situation.
It's partially that, it's partially overcrowding rooms generally, which happens a bunch. People lining up in hallways also isn't safe for fire safety. It's just not.
Yeah, well, one convention we went to, actually the first convention we went to, at one point, there was a big line outside for the cosplay contest, and it was a massive line, and people were sitting down, and we had like con volunteers coming up and making everybody stand up because sitting down was, they described that as violating the fire code, and we're like, well, we've been out here for an hour.
Standing up is also dangerous at this point for a lot of people with disabilities.
So yeah, that wasn't great.
There's no skunk chat.
Okay, is skunk chat code for something?
No.
Also goslings?
Well, they're babies still.
Yep.
So cute. There's bigger ones over there too.
Yep.
So, for reference, the Anthrocon Discord server has a chat, because again, it's furries, where you can be different animals. So they have canines, felines, scalies, avian, kangaroos, and at the time, I think like horses and stuff like that, but they didn't have a skunk chat.
I mean, it's very specific, but if they've got a kangaroo chat, they probably should have a skunk chat.
Well, I have good news to report to you since that complaint, because that was a couple years ago. They now have a black cats with white painted stripes chat.
I'm sorry, that's just the cat that Pepe Le Pew's constantly chasing after. Okay, somebody had fun with that.
I get that's the most wholesome complaint and resolution I think I've ever heard of. So
yeah, let's just call that a valid complaint and move on. Dear. Again, furries are weird, but in wonderful ways.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism, by the way. I live your crazy, people.
Yes, please do.
Like, that's just my advice to everybody. Whatever your particular brand of crazy is, live it. Enjoy it. Take pride and pleasure in it, because that's what makes you wonderful. Being the same as everybody else sucks.
Okay, moving on to Origins now.
Okay.
The board game library area wasn't big enough.
I mean, it does get very busy and crowded, but at the same time, there's only so much space. Like, they are using that convention center for all it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. So here's the thing: if they put the board game library in its own completely separate area, maybe. But I honestly don't know what the solution to that would be. Like, maybe take some of the games out of there, put them in like the short North Ball room,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then expand the open gaming space, which is also the board game library space. Like, that might work. Might also make some of the individual gaming groups, give them more of a quiet space. Because that was kind of one of our main issues with that Call of Cthulhu game, was just the main hall wasn't a great place
Yeah.
for a Call of Cthulhu game. It was being run by a specific gaming group. Their section was in there. So what can you do? So yeah, I'm gonna put that one under If You Squint. You haven't had many crazy ones. We haven't had that much Old Man Yells at Cloud.
Well, I used a lot of the crazy ones last time, and it takes a while to find them. And I'm also Googling complaint, like in these chats. I'm not like scrolling through them because that's gonna take too long for me to like curb through stuff. So like, I'm probably gonna pull up more reasonable stuff. So
That's fair. Again, this episode's probably long enough at this point. You know that, right?
Yep.
It's mostly just a case of, do we want to keep going until we get all the way home and make this a 2.5-hour episode
Do
anyway?
you want to do that or not?
Probably not, but
Okay, we can stop now if you want.
Oh no, I can keep going as long as you want to. And that's a promise, honey.
Complaining about badge pricing.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm gonna say that's probably sort of had a point. Like, events like this do cost a lot to run, depending on like the venue space and a bunch of other factors. So complaining that it is expensive is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people don't have the disposable income to go to multiple cons in a year. And, if it's something like Origins, if it's something like Gen Con, that's a big multi-day event. Like, I get feeling like you're being priced out.
Yeah. And I do think Origins did up their pricing. That's where I'm hearing about it. They still are, for kind of their size, they're cheaper than everything else.
Yeah. Like, they're a lot cheaper than Gen Con.
Yeah. And I will say pricing for most cons tends to be pretty standard, of about between $80 to $100 if you're buying day of, and it goes down depending on how early you're buying. Those tend to be pretty standard for weekend badges across cons for our area. Some stuff, like Gen Con, is more expensive. Other stuff is slightly less if it's a smaller con. But generally, I feel like price per value for cons, part of the reason we keep going to cons is because for us, they're pretty economically feasible in terms of entertainment, because it's a $70 or $80 badge, and for the most part, for us, that's entertainment for the whole weekend, and that's a pretty good price per like minute value.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
But I do understand that it can be hard for other people, and trying to offset the cost some ways can be important. And we are fortunate enough to be in a position right now where we're pretty okay financially.
Yeah. Again, low cost of living area, 2 working professionals, etc., etc., etc.
VIP badges not being worth it.
So you and I don't buy VIP badges largely because we don't think they're worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to call that just a valid complaint. Like, if you're spending that much extra, you probably should get a bunch of perks for it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them just amount to, you get into the vendors hall early, you get priority at registration, which again, for a con like Anthrocon, where like the line can be 2 hours long, priority registration actually is kind of a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, like, I completely get it not being enough.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if we paid VIP ticket prices at the one we were just at, I can't see them doing anything to make that worth it. So yeah, again, I'm going to put that in valid. But at the same time, the counter argument is, well, just don't pay for them then. Because you've commented before that, like, VIP tickets giving you like early access to the board game ticketing system so you could guarantee getting the specific games you want, that might be a perk that's kind of worth it. But they'd still go to the RPGs, and all the RPGs would sell out instantly. So
Yeah.
I don't even know what you get for the Origins VIP tickets.
Yeah, I think it's like an extra bonus bag. I think they don't offer VIP registration, which I actually would pay for if they did for Origins and Gen Con, because it's just kind of worth it to get in there early and not deal with the stress.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. This is from Colossal. Too much bleach in the pool.
I'm assuming they mean chlorine, not bleach.
Yeah, I don't really know. They're saying bleach and acid. I don't think bleach and acid is remotely accurate.
Yeah,
but that's what the post says.
That's...
I doubt the pool had acid in it.
Yeah, I'm going to put that under Old Man Yells at Cloud because I don't think you know what you're talking about. If you're talking about the pool being over-chlorinated, welcome to every public pool ever.
Well, there was complaints about it being over-chlorinated and harming costumes, which is somewhat valid, I think, but at the same time, it's like you probably should test your cosplay in a pool if you have access to it or with chlorine before you get into a pool that's going to have a lot of chlorine in it because it's a public pool. So maybe sort of had a point.
Yeah.
If you squint, I'm torn between those two categories.
I'll give it to if you squint.
Your pet missed you too much while you were gone.
Valid complaint. Completely 100% valid complaint. Again, we have a small dog. She always gets extra excited to see us anytime we come home from a longer con. We have a dog sitter who looks after her. She's completely fine when we're away for a couple of days, but at the same time, yeah. You did not have a fun time on Monday just because she was very resolutely glued to your face. Because again, she's a small dachshund mix, which means her love language is licking your face. Which if you're trying to relax on a Monday after a long convention and she's just constantly licking you, that's an issue. Yeah, but no, 100% valid. Your dog missing you, or your pet missing you, I should say. I shouldn't assume whether this was cat, dog, or what. Maybe your pet snake was particularly attached.
Somebody not being offended that their panel was scheduled for 1 o'clock in the morning and a bunch of people came in just to get their con ribbon and then left because they didn't want to listen to them drunk ramble about Shadow the Hedgehog, and they said that's valid. It's not even a complaint, it's just funny.
That's a non-complaint, so that doesn't belong on the list, but
It's funny though.
It is funny.
And generally, I do hope that panelists, because I've paneled before, I understand that sometimes you can't stay for a whole panel. And also sometimes you might go into a panel and think it's one thing and it's not for you. That's okay.
That's completely fair and valid. We've done that. We've gone into the front of a panel, sat through the first 10 minutes and gone, I don't think this panel's for us. And that's fair. Again, especially for 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. panels. As a panelist, nobody is obligated to sit through your panel. It's nice when they do, but you can't force them.
People complaining there's nothing to do in Scranton.
Is there anything to do in Scranton?
I don't know. You're the one who gets to judge this.
Okay. So the thing is, we live in Ohio. I have been told repeatedly that there's nothing to do in Ohio, and the fact that this podcast exists proves that you are wrong. So I'm going to assume there is stuff to do in Scranton, and you just weren't looking hard enough. Welcome to Tier 4, which is Who Asked? Also, you're going to a convention. Shouldn't the convention be the primary thing you're doing? I can't judge. I went to a sword fighting convention in Vegas 7 or 8 years ago, and I spent all the time that I wasn't at the convention just mostly chilling in my hotel room. I went to Vegas and I didn't take in any shows and I didn't gamble, which is probably the wrong way to do Vegas, but I had fun. So. Yeah, go Scranton. There's probably stuff to do in you.
People complaining that they, after the con, found dildos in their hotel room.
So, what? They're complaining that after the con?
Presumably, somebody who rented the room after the con ended, so they rented it afterwards. I don't know if they went to the con or not. Presumably not. Found dildos that were left over from the con in their hotel room that the maid staff forgot to get.
Okay. So, one, try not to leave that stuff behind. But two, clean your hotel rooms properly. Like, I feel that's a valid criticism because you would like to think that a hotel room between uses gets properly cleaned. And if the maid staff didn't find that kind of stuff, that implies they weren't cleaning it properly. Now, it might just be that, like, they were in a drawer and the maid staff just doesn't open the drawers and check, which, yeah, okay, fair enough. But, like,
especially if it was next to the Bible. Like, that's classy right there.
yeah. I mean, maybe they were also using the Bible.
We don't judge.
We don't judge. We don't king shame. So, yeah. You know, I'm going to call that probably, sort of had a point. Like, clean your hotel rooms.
Complaining about the loss of a console gaming room or a con not having a console gaming room.
So, personally, I would put this one under who asked, purely because I don't know why you would go to a convention to play console video games. Like, you can do that at home. If you can afford con tickets, you can probably save up for an Xbox. Now, with that said, that could just be me being, a bit of a dick about it.
Yeah, I will admit this is not something that either of us do at cons. Maybe it's somebody else's favorite thing at a con.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you can check the website to see if it's there.
Yes. And again, like, it is very much a case of, if you really like going to cons and playing video games near other people who are also playing video games, fair enough. You do you. It's just, it's not something that appeals to us specifically. So I find it hard to judge. Like, from my point of view, that's not a particularly massive complaint. Like, we tend not to get much use out of video game rooms generally. Like, we will occasionally do some DDR just because it's funny how bad we both are at it. But that's not why we go to a convention. But again, we encourage people to do the things they like to do at conventions. So, if playing console games is your thing, fair enough. Especially as they always have like the same 4 or 5 games.
And so here's a big one, particularly for Colossal Con. Complaining about people, noise complaints, people complaining about noise complaints, specifically at Colossal Con.
Okay. So, noise complaints at Colossal Con. Part of the issue is I don't know to what extent Colossal Con has any other guests during Colossal.
They don't have any other guests, but they do have quiet hours from 10 p.m. till 8 a.m.
Seriously?
They do. It's on their policy. They reserve the right to kick you out. And I don't know if they... I think that might be... Colossal Con also has a policy that says you can't bring in outside food, and they clearly ignore that. So yeah. I don't know to what extent they also just ignore the point about like noise complaints in rooms at Colossal Con.
Yeah, because I was going to say at Colossal Con, I would be expecting a lot of room parties, and I expect those room parties to get pretty raucous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just kind of par for the course of that con. Like, I'm honestly really surprised they have that policy. Like, put it this way. When you said they have, like, a quiet room policy, I was assuming you were going to say from, like, 2 a.m. to 8 a.m.?
No, it's at 10. I think this is just standard for them, and that would be standard for most hotels, because those are just considered sleeping hours for most hotels, which is, again, fine for most hotel rooms a lot of the time. I will also say, depending on how well hotel rooms are, like, soundproof, because I've definitely been to, like, hotel room parties a lot of times in my life, both con-related and not, where, like, we were, like, talking a bunch, and as far as I know, no one's complained on the room. And I've also been next to hotel room parties while staying in a hotel room, and, like, I had my fan on, and I really couldn't hear anything at all, because it was pretty well soundproofed.
Yeah. But we've also been to, I've also been in hotels where you could hear everything going on in the next room. Like,
I've also been to those hotels as well, and at Colossal in particular, like, we've seen, like, beer pong tables set up, like, people are partying in the hallways. So, yeah, I don't really know for that particular con.
Yeah, I'm going to put that square in the middle just because I genuinely don't know how I feel about that. Like, I think making a noise complaint is legitimate, but at the same time, it's a con where I think, good lord, that motorbike's engine is unnecessarily loud.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how the guy riding it isn't deaf. But anyway, but like at that particular kind of ironic that guy's going past while we're talking about noise complaints. But at that con in particular, I would expect it to be loud and raucous and noisy and all of that jazz. So I kind of get why people are just like, yeah. Because again, at this point, I think that just the con's room block is the entire Kalahari for the weekend. Like, I don't know if there's anybody in that hotel that's not there for Colossal Con.
Yeah. In character panels.
Just people complaining about them?
Yeah.
So you and I generally don't like in character panels.
We haven't gone to a lot of them, to be fair.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. An in-character panel that was being done by the writers and or performers of the specific characters, that could be fun. I could get behind that. Like, you and I have seen Grey Delisle on stage, and how comfortable she is just dropping into Azula's mannerisms and personality.
Yeah.
You know, like a panel that was just her, like, you know, mocking the audience as Azula. Like, you give her a some kind of prompt, and she just, you tell her like one thing about yourself, and she just insults you as Azula over it. That could probably be a fun panel. You know, whereas like some random guy who thinks they do a pretty good Ash Ketchum impersonation, like answering questions, like I don't really see the appeal personally, but you know, maybe that's just me. Like, I know some people adore those kind of panels. So again, I'm going to put this under, if you squint, purely because they're not really my kind of panel, but for the people who like them, have fun with them. Like, don't let anybody else tell you what you can and can't enjoy. Especially not me. I'm British. We spent years telling people what they couldn't and couldn't enjoy.
In Missouri now, elevator jams.
Okay, yeah, valid criticism. Well, when we say jams, are we talking just...
I mostly just mean the ornate, like most cons have this. If you take elevators, which we don't, unless we absolutely have to, there's a time period where it can take 10 minutes to get into an elevator from the time you attempt to get into one.
And that is a legitimate criticism. Like, it is. Like, it's deeply annoying. It's a limit of the convention space, because here's the thing. Most convention spaces don't actually plan for that many people to use the lifts. Now, if you're a hotel, you should probably expect, especially if you are like a 20-story hotel, people are going to use your lifts. Like, plan ahead for that. But here's the thing though: when most of those hotels were built, the assumption would be that people would sleep there, maybe come there at some point throughout the day, but you're going to spend a lot of time like out and about and doing stuff. Whereas at a convention like this, especially one with a connecting hotel, you are actually going to be going back and forth to your hotel room a lot more because you're effectively just staying on site. So I think it is a legitimate complaint. I also don't think there's an easy solve for it other than just like better stair access. But a lot of people go, if you're in a full fursuit, you can't climb 10 sets of stairs. You just can't. Like, you need to take the lift. There's a reason why if you go to so this is your first FurCon panel, one of the pieces of advice would be the fursuiters get priority to the lifts.
Yep.
They just do.
Okay. We've been going for a while now. Do you want me to keep looking, or?
That's probably a reasonable point to kind of end it. Can you find like one last one that's particularly juicy?
I'll see if I can find anything. Again, the Origins group tends to be pretty good for that. Wish you could sort by controversial on Facebook, but you cannot. Anywho, you want to say? Do you have any Old Man Yells at Cloud complaints that you want to say while I try to do that?
Any really stupid ones?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably do. Here's my personal Old Man Yells at Cloud. Why are all the board game cons like in a 3-week period? There's Origins, and now there's a massive gap until like November.
Okay, we're going to Gen Con. I don't feel like you get to...
Okay, we've got Origins, we've got Gen Con, and then there's like a massive gap, and then we've got like 3 board game cons back to back, which I'm looking forward to, but at the same time, Why are they clustered that much? Like, spread them out. Board game cons are among my personal favorite type of cons, and it's annoying that they're all like clustered like that. Especially if I'm planning to run stuff at them, and it's like, do I want to run the same games at the back to back at different cons, or do I want to like do even more prep work? Because the prep work gets annoying.
Yeah, which is fair.
So yeah, that's my personal old man yells at cloud. But again, like that's mostly just a criticism that's specific to me.
Somebody is very concerned that the Doctor Who RPG that they signed up for, that they paid $4 for, might not include the Doctor in the scenario. They paid $4 for it.
I take it this is a Gen Con, is it?
I think it's for Origins. I'm a bit confused.
Okay. I mean, I get it. If you here's the thing: the Doctor Who universe.
Okay, I'm trying to find a funny one. That was the best I could do.
No. I'm going to consider this seriously as our last one. So, the Doctor Who universe is weird and random and makes no actual logical, consistent sense because 50 plus years of sci-fi storytelling where they didn't care if most of it made sense. Like the actual timeline of the human race, if you track it through Doctor Who, is gibberish. Because again, they mostly were just telling interesting individual stories, didn't care if the continuity matched up. Once you throw time travel into that mix, congratulations to Higgledy-Piggledy-Mess. Which does mean that, like, to feel like a Doctor Who story, it mostly needs to involve the Doctor. Now, with that said, you can do interesting stories without him. If anybody's ever listened to Dalek Empire, it's a series of audio dramas about a Dalek invasion of the Milky Way that does at no point feature the Doctor. They're actually really good. But, so you can definitely tell stories using Doctor Who elements without the Doctor. But with that said, don't complain about an RPG before you've played it. Again, do we know if they're complaining they can't play as the Doctor, or if...
I think so. They just don't want the Doctor to be a playable character. Although the last time I played the Doctor Who RPG, we were the last people at the table, and the Doctor was still like an optional character, and I wound up getting it just because no one else wanted it.
Yep.
Now, it was a female, the female version of the Doctor. We're not getting into that debate on this podcast.
Was Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, because
Yes.
that was the era they set it in. But
And
again,
I think I was the only femme-identifying person at the table, but most men I know don't have problems playing girls, so maybe they just like the companions better.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, like, if you want an RPG to be a specific thing, congratulations, the way to guarantee that is to run it yourself. I'm sorry. And again, like, if it's a paid event, I get being annoyed, if it's not exactly what you want it to be, but that's always the risk you run. Like, I've been to specific events at board game cons that weren't quite what I personally wanted them to be. That's going to happen from time to time. Which again, it's one of the reasons I'm not a massive fan of paid tickets generally. I would rather have free tickets, because that way, if an event ends up being kind of disappointing, oh well, you move on to the next one. It didn't cost you anything specific.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I will just read this Old Man Yells at Cloud post, which I think I've already read on the one with Betty, but it's funny and it's worth it just to end because it's just so Old Man Yells at Cloud. Proposal: all events have a $10 or more refundable deposit within 24 hours of the event. Then it becomes non-refundable. I propose this for all cons and put the proceeds to charity. If the table doesn't run due to no shows, it goes to the host. I didn't run any games at this con. I'm not certain I could. Blah 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 blah. This is not a new concept. If you can't go to the thing, you find someone for your ticket, or you lose out on the money. Why should cons be any different? Especially since Taylor Swift is still going to perform even if she has different seats. Many cons cannot run their events. You're not feeling well is usually the excuse. Well, you're not suddenly sick and everyone knows that. Not even the majority. These people are just people opting out because they're selfish people. And poor planning falls into the selfish category. Registration for group events is not you choosing an event for you. It's you're joining a group event for which your participation is required for the group to function. Too many people don't understand that. Even more understand but don't care. We're paying $200 a night for hotels and lots for food, plus shopping and fees and parking, etc. We accept those costs, even though we know we're paying significantly more than what we would normally because we want to get it from a con, not what we could get otherwise. I suggest deposits fall into that category. Even if I get sick and I can't make it, I understand that my no-show, regardless of the reason, can easily destroy other person's plan. To me, that understanding is worth $25. However, I'll propose $10. I know this might sound like a rant, but it's really just a proposal to help curb a rampant problem. Until it hits wallets, in respect for host planning and effort will not be had outside of lip service.
Have fun with your cloud there, buddy.
Yep.
It's definitely deserves that yelling.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do get it's frustrating that people don't show up to events, and it makes me a little bit nervous. But the thing is, charging for individual events at cons is not going to make anyone more guaranteed that they're going to show up.
Nope.
There's not really a way of finding other events for tickets. I will say, Gen Con and Origins do have host message systems, so you can, if you know you're not going to show up, I think a great thing to do would be to message the host and just let them know. I had one person do that at Origins for me.
Yep.
And that meaning, and most cons do have the option to message your wait list. So if you know you're going to have no shows, you can always message your wait list.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, I think that's polite.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary, but again,
sometimes games don't run. It has happened to us a couple times,
yep.
But
It's happened to me. It sucks, but again, you move on.
Yep.
Like when we were at one board game convention, I was set to run an Age of Sigmar RPG, Soulbound, if you've ever played it or heard of it, and nobody turned up to that. I was a bit disappointed. Do you know what I did? I sat down and I started writing my Mass Effect adventure. Like I just used the time differently.
And yeah, that was one I think we did. That was our soft launch of the podcast, and that ticketing system had its own problems. But again, I don't think charging people for games is a way to go because that adds up quickly. It puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people, and it's not going to let anyone find a spot for your ticket because most people when they go to cons, you okay?
Yeah.
Most people when they go to cons don't know anyone else there because this person's suggesting if you can't go, you find somebody to take your ticket. That's not possible for most people. They don't know anyone else at the con who wants it.
Yeah. It's not like Ticketmaster where you can be like, yeah, I've got this season ticket, but I'm not feeling it this week. I'll sell the tickets for the specific one to somebody else. That's just not a thing that the system's designed to deal with. So yeah.
And I just don't think that putting money on tickets is going to make any difference.
No, it's not. The fact that you and I have had tickets to events that we haven't been able to make it at board game cons, it's annoying. It sucks, but it's gonna happen.
And you don't want somebody at your table who doesn't want to play.
Yeah. You want people who are there because they are enthusiastic and they want to have fun.
Yeah. And when we were doing a late night con show, I knew that was going to be one that might have lower attendance just because I know that first spot Sunday on a game tends to be the one where there's the most no-shows because people are tired.
Yep.
It happens. It's not that big a deal. And we still had fun, even though we were in with 2 people.
Yeah. That was a great little game.
Tiny Bethany.
Yeah, Tiny Bethany.
So sorry this episode turned into kind of a rant, whatever, but
just us doing random stuff, but
So we might have another episode tomorrow if we decide to go to another con, but otherwise we'll see you next week for Techo.
For Techo. Looking forward to that. So, thank you very much for listening. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.